Welcome to a fresh heat wave in the National University Debate Competition. Of course, we are sponsored by the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, by the Norwegian Students and Academics International Assistance Fund, and SAYWHAT. Here on Zimpaper's television network, we had an interesting and exciting first round, and now we're in our second segment. Having whittled down from 10 teams, now we have in this segment National University of Technology versus Africa University, Midland State University versus the University of Zimbabwe, and Lupani State University versus HIT. Of course, we're using the adjusted Karl Popper debate format as we did in the first round. But just for those who are joining us, we will start with asking the affirmers to state their names and the programs that they're pursuing.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Ann Nazombe from the National University of Science and Technology. I study environmental science and health.
And your partner to follow suit.
Hi, I'm Judas Ngube from the National University of Science and Technology. I'm studying journalism and media.
May we have student one from the opposing team?
Hi, my name is Chipo Kanyarimi. I'm from Africa University, third year student studying accounting.
And your partner as well.
Hi, I'm Melus Chinyoka, first year student, Computer Information System students, Africa University.
The topic that they're going to be battling out on is comprehensive sexuality education for young people, a religious and cultural taboo. That topic, once again, comprehensive sexuality education for young people, a religious and cultural taboo. We shall start with an affirmative opening speech from student number one. That shall last 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
So panel, basically we're gathered here to talk about, number one, how culture and society affect comprehensive sexual education in this particular society, right? So comprehensive sexual education involves where students and young people, particularly the youth, are brought about together and they're talking about issues of sexual and reproductive health, how they should practice safe sex, how they should protect themselves from HIV and AIDS, right? And we're talking about society, basically cultural norms and religion, right? These are two rigid statutes that govern the happenings of society, right? So now that I've defined everything, let's move on to what's going on. If you notice in today's society, comprehensive sexual education has been pushed to 100%, but when you look at response and we look at adaptations of the strategies that have been proposed, it's at a minimum level. Why? Because of the disparity between comprehensive sexual education that is pushed for in society and cultural norms, right? We do agree that yes, to a certain extent, religion and culture do preach the same message. For example, do not have sex until you get married, pushes for abstinence, right? We understand that yes, this is true, but there are particular components that are pushed by comprehensive sexual education that are not supported by society, right? For example, educating young people on how to practice safe sex. We feel really community and society has not yet adapted and adopted the strategies or accepted that young people are having sex. They feel that because a parent is socializing the child, a parent tells you do not have sex, right? That is the socialization that a child has from early childhood, right? Because this is the socialization that a child has. It means society is not dynamic, society is moving because the primary socializer's mindset has not yet been changed, right? Which means society and societal norms and culture remain rigid while child practices alter over time, right? We feel that and as much as child behavior alters over time, because society remains rigid, there is a huge disparity between comprehensive education on sexual issues and society itself. Therefore, the two are not coherent and they do not run the same lines, right? We feel this is a particular problem, right? We feel, first of all, because religion has got proper governing books, for example, the Bible, the Quran and all that do not alter over time. They then push the same message across agendas and across everything that's going on, right? But what comprehensive sexuality seeks to do, comprehensive sexuality is something that is fluid over time, over societies. But what it does not do, what the problem with it is it addresses people as a homogeneous entity, right? What sexual comprehensive education does is it puts everyone under the same bracket. Just because you are a youth, it means you need a condom in order for you to protect yourself, which is particularly not exactly true. Reasons being, the acceptance of a condom in our societies is different because of the societal narratives that exist, right? So because of this wide gap, that's why you notice that condom usage is not really rampant, but people will rush for the emergency morning after pill. Why? Because they want to hide their sins from their mother yesterday, right? So we feel that there is a huge disparity between comprehensive sexual education and cultural norms and societal norms that needs to be considered when strategies are being drafted for HIV prevention. Thank you.
And that shall be time. And immediately the opposers cross-examination by student number 2, which shall last a minute, which starts now.
Thanks, Speaker. You mentioned in your speech that religion and culture offer rigid statutes, whereas CSE is fluid over time. So therefore, can you further elaborate on rigid statutes?
The rigid statute that I'm talking about is how the Bible says thou shalt not have sex. It doesn't change any day, right, until you get married. Society, your mother tells you to stay away from boys when you're a young girl. She doesn't change her message throughout time. Those are the rigid structures that I'm talking about. Structures that do not bend to the will of children or to the actions that children are doing, but they remain rigid over time. However, comprehensive sexual education seeks to address things that are happening like here and now, to say now we have got changing sexualities, we've got people needing this, we've got people needing that.
Thank you. You said also CSE puts everyone under one bracket. Can you elaborate?
CSE really does not consider the different cultural backgrounds that we come from, right? They treat all of us as homogeneous entities.
Okay. And time does not also, it's not a very kind thing to us, as we have noticed. Opposers opening speech by student number 1, that shall be 3 minutes, and that time starts now.
Okay, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand the concept of comprehensive sexuality education, ladies and gentlemen. What we are pretty much saying is that it enables young people to protect their health, their well-being, and their dignity. And the term comprehensive means it's putting into perspective human rights principles of each and every youth, each and every adult, advanced gender equality rights for women and for men, and empowerment of young people, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the difference that they did not put into their redefinition. Now, we're going to move on to the studies that were done by UNFPA, which is United Nations Population Fund, right? They're simply saying that young adults, youths, they're vulnerable to coercion, STIs, and unwanted and planned pregnancy. And the status quo has put this in such a way that majority of these adolescents are lacking knowledge, hence CSE, ladies and gentlemen. Now, coming back to our topic, which they're trying to run away from, what is cultural and traditional taboo, ladies and gentlemen? We are saying that religious and cultural taboo is saying that abortion is wrong, premarital sex is wrong, premarital sex will cause this, and there's polygamy is good or bad and everything like that. But do they have an explanation towards that? Like she said, there is rigid statutes that are saying this is bad, but has anything actually given us why is it bad? And we are saying CSE comes in and says this is the reason why premarital sex is bad, because of unplanned pregnancy. This is the reason why polygamy is bad, because of STIs. This is the reason why abortion is wrong, because you could die, because of all the pros and the cons that they're bringing in. So what we are basically saying, ladies and gentlemen, that CSI is actually helping society, it's helping cultures, because like they said, which they're on our team, it is rigid, ladies and gentlemen. And they go on and say that cultural background, CSE is compound and everything like that. But ladies and gentlemen, we're saying what is more important? My health, my well-being and my dignity, or culture and tradition? That's rigid and that's not applicable now, ladies and gentlemen. They also say that some cultures and religions do not accept condoms the same way and everything like that. So are you now saying there's no sex in the world? Because evidently there is. But we are saying we need to, now that we need to just reach to accept and say, okay, this is happening in the world. Even if I'm told by my mother and society is saying you shouldn't do this, I'm still doing it. Now we are simply saying that we need to be putting sexuality education into relation. We need to be putting my well-being even though I'm actually being wrong. So ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that CSE comes to expose cultures such as in Malawi, where they make an old man sleep with virgins for the first time with unprotected sex, spreading STIs and HIV and AIDS. The Zulu circumcision that has killed many boys each and every year, and this is statistics, ladies and gentlemen. So we are saying that it's a matter of human rights that we need as youth and adults, and we are saying that there is no cultural or religious taboo that needs to be put into fact. We just need to look at what is more important to us. We are now living in a modern world. This is the 21st century, and we are saying comprehensive sexuality education is much more and far more important than cultural and religious taboos that you're saying we're going to implement on the world.
Affirmative cross-examination. That shall be a minute. Student 2 starts now.
So we want to understand what exactly do you think is the importance of acknowledging the gap that exists between societal institutions like religion, etc., and comprehensive sexual education?
We are simply saying that these two, as they stand so far apart, right, we can't find that bridge and that gap. And we're then here to say that what's better? We're going to weigh what is it that we need as a world, as a people, and as a community. And we are saying it's comprehensive sexuality education.
So now comprehensive sexuality education has proven that it treats everybody. Normally, in most institutes, in most cases, they say, here is a condom, assumption of that people are having sex. What exactly is your comment about that?
We are saying that they're bringing in the assumption that everybody's having sex. Why? Because everyone is having sex. So we are saying that culture and religion is making it seem as if everyone is not having sex. But comprehensive sexuality education acknowledges that and then brings in solutions towards that.
So that ideology narrative that everyone is having sex is the naiveness that is carried by CS
Time.
education.
Opposers rebuttal. Student number 2 will give us 2 minutes, which starts now.
All right, so I'll begin by attacking the affirmer's point of view that CSE is fluid over time, whereas religion and culture is rigid or fixed. Our point here is that CSE is also rigid over time due to lack of knowledge about sexuality, reproductive health, and on the other point that there's a huge disparity between comprehensive sexuality education and religion and culture. Let us know that comprehensive sexuality education doesn't criticize or discriminate any particular religious group or culture, and it is open to anyone who is willing and able to pay attention to what its principles outline, and it does not impose those principles on anyone who's not prepared to listen to its outlined principles of sexual reproductive health, awareness, and education. And on that note of disparity between religion and culture and CSE, CSE helps create a platform for young people and caregivers alike to address issues and concerns with regard to sexuality, reproductive health through frank and open discussions about sexual education and health. Therefore, CSE is not culturally taboo, as it fosters open communication and dialogue, which is very important in order for any human culture to function comprehensively. It helps everyone in the end, as it is comprehensive in nature. Yes, and also on that point of CSE being also rigid, lack of adequate information or facts, ignorance about SRH in religious and cultural circles cannot be justified as cause to demonize or ostracize comprehensive sexuality education. That being said, CSE should not be viewed as taboo, for it aims to counter such ignorance about sexuality, reproductive health, especially among
Time.
Thank you.
We shall be having an affirmative rebuttal by student number 2. That shall be 2 minutes, which starts now.
So I think the debate is probably shifting, going in another milestone, right? So firstly, what we are going to acknowledge is that, well, CSC has been really fluid and not as rigid as they think. We will take note of how education of sexual whatsoever is provided to particularly heteronormative structures, right? Heterosexual structures. But today we have education that is even looking at other forms of sexualities, other forms of what they are changing, they are showing their fluidity, ability to adjust. Now, where am I getting to? The importance of acknowledging the gap that exists between religion and again that exists between that CSC is important, so that we can bridge that gap by engaging. How are we engaging? We are engaging as CSC and that religion to say, what exactly can we do to make a better society? How exactly do we think? Religion and other cultural practices have got problems like age gaps and the likes. You cannot be found in a conversation speaking to a much more elderly person about sexual issues. But then look at how CSC bridges. We've got even our grandmothers coming to tell us about such issues. That is what we feel that gap should be acknowledged and engaged on as a whole, right? Then we also look at the narrative that is being run by that bench, right? The idea of that, well, that everyone is having sex, so CSC should basically treat everybody as homogeneous. We think fluidity is important because it's not everybody who's having sex. We should give you education that fits abstinence, abstaining individuals. We should give you education that fits certain things. If we ever realize that society is developing another type of sexuality, let us also give them that one, because in any case, we have realized it's happening, right? So the issue is acknowledging the gap and trying to bridge the gap in order to ensure that HIV prevention does happen. Religion and other institutions, they actually deter that progress of HIV prevention and whatsoever. So we think it's important that we acknowledge all those things so that we can make the education really comprehensive. After all, comprehensiveness is keeping on adding to ensure no one is left out. Good day.
And that is time. Wow. Now, the opposers' closing remarks by student 1. This shall be 1 minute and 30 seconds. That commences right now.
Opening quotes, give education. How many of us were taught in school but then couldn't remember anything in the exam? A lot of people. And this is exactly what we are saying, ladies and gentlemen. Religion, culture teaches you all these things, but do you listen, ladies and gentlemen? We are simply saying that there is a gap between religion and culture and comprehensive sexuality education. But now we are saying in our closing remarks, ladies and gentlemen, is what's more important? Is it my health, or is it your roots? Is it your culture that you think it is taboo to be taught about these things that are paramount and important to my life? So ladies and gentlemen, we are simply saying that comprehensive sexuality education is providing a basis, an explanation to what is being brought about, the beliefs and the customs and the norms that are being brought about by religious and cultural beliefs and cultures, ladies and gentlemen. We are also putting into perspective how religion and culture is simply shunning this away, but it's a matter of human rights, as was put forward by UNFPA, ladies and gentlemen. We are saying that my culture and your religion, or your religion and my culture, they're different, but then your sexuality and my sexuality are the same. Your organ and my organ is the same, ladies and gentlemen. And hence we are saying that comprehensive sexuality education is what is paramount and important in the 21st and modern century, ladies and gentlemen. We are saying that this is about time that we come and accept the world that we are living in, ladies and gentlemen. It is about time that we come and expose this cultural and religious taboo or norms that they tend to be saying these are for their culture, religion, uproot and tradition, ladies and gentlemen.
Time. And now the affirmative closing remarks. Student 1, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds. That start now.
Panel, this debate is not about what is more important, comprehensive sexual activity, education and culture, right? This debate is basically about the side which is able to prove is comprehensive sexual education in line with cultural values, or is there a gap that needs to be acknowledged? Basically, all of us are affirmers in this house because they also admit to the fact that there is a huge gap between comprehensive sexual education and cultural practices and religious practices that are pushed for in this world, right? We have managed to prove to you how basically religion says sex is for the bedroom, for married people, but comprehensive sexual activity tells that no, because you're having sex and you're a youth, even if you're not married, come and get condoms, right? Of which that is not what culture and society are preaching, right? The reason, this fact that there is a disparity between the two educational strategies that exist and basically influence every youth, right? Which is socialization from culture and comprehensive education, comprehensive sexual education that you get, say, from school or from other peers, right? This gap is the reason why HIV prevention strategies are failing, right? So in order for them to be successful, the only thing we have to do is first agree that there is a disparity between the two, and then we can major on discourse that seeks to bring the two together, right? So if we've established that the two systems are totally different, we can now look for a common baseline, which is the one that I highlighted of abstinence and sex after marriage, right? We can now look for a baseline, but in the current status quo, the fact that there is a disparity between culture and comprehensive sexual activity, where we're all treated as homogeneous entity, that is why systems are failing currently.
You cannot battle with time. Well, after that comprehensive round of debate, we've come to the end of the first episode in our second segment here as we speak and solve in this Speak and Solve initiative. That was National University of Science and Technology and Africa University battling it out. When we return, we shall have Midland State University and use it. Please stay tuned.
Hey guys, my name is Maria McKelvey and I am live at the Herald studio. We are representing Midland State University at the SASI Debate Championship.
And I am Kudzai Joseph Chokmanyara, a fourth-year student at Midland State University.